Yeah, David's here. Call the Environmental Services, Public Works, and Building Committee to order and have Ms. Susan Jones pray for us.
Lord God, as we come before you tonight, we just thank you for the blessings that you have put upon Garland County, from, Lord, the smallest detail to having a bridge fixed that was supposed to be 18 months and almost ready to go. You've watched over us, you have blessed the finances, and you have watched over all the decisions that are made. And we pray that we honor you in all that we do. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Susan.
My honor.
I passed out a little flyer. I visited with a friend, went to the Mena Polk County Senior Citizen Center a few months ago, and Leslie Smith was director there and gave us a tour and so forth. And very, very nice facility, nice people, big crowd at a lunch, something around 60 people probably eating lunch. And my friend and I that visited with me sat, and I got up and mingled and visited with some people at tables. And before I even asked, I knew you guys have known each other a while, hadn't you? And it was just a reunion every day, I guess, because they started going, oh, I went to grade school with him, and they had overalls and 85 years old. And so they were enjoying having lunch with each other, visiting with each other. So this is just a monthly, I believe, or weekly, what's going on, birthdays, events, and contests that are going on, and pool tournament, and whatever's being on the agenda that week. Music, they have a stage, nice stage for live music, and have shows all week long of gospel music and country music and so forth, locals, groups that play. Darryl, I'll let you catch us up, but I'm going to go over a few bullet points. And we know that it's going well over at Union Baptist Church. Had a grand opening. Probably, how many people would you say there were at that?
Justice Young, I would say there was over 100 there.
Yeah.
They kind of trickled in a little bit, but when I first pulled up, the parking was amazing that there was that many people there. And then I didn't get to stay. I had another function to go to, so I didn't get to stay to eat. But man, there was a lot of people there. It was a great turnout.
A lot of folks. It was a good event. Grand opening, ribbon cutting, and Chamber of Commerce was there, a whole bunch. We, hope you can give us an update on as much as you possibly can. I want to hear a little bit, go back for the members that weren't here, and it's been a while since we've had a meeting on what we've budgeted, the $500,000, $100,000, the Ouachita Fund, and how that lines up and will be utilized, and contractors and developments with the architects and so forth. And so I'll just turn it over to you and let you fill us in. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
so I've got about 12 projects here on my list that we'll go over this evening to kind of give you some ideas so you can share it with your constituents of what we got going on. And we've added a few more this evening with other problems that we found. But first thing is, we'll talk about our senior center. And these are some conceptual drawings that have been given to us by French architects. It may not be exactly like this, but this is a pretty good idea of what we're planning to have. It's roughly 13,000 square feet, like 12,950 square feet. If you can see the floor plan of it, when we get to the floor plan down here, it was sent to us in an email, so it's difficult to get it pulled up in anything. But there's the floor plan, the way it'll look. You can see we've got a lot of space in the kitchen. We've got a lot of space to freeze, the walk-in freezer, the walk-in refrigerator. Those areas will all be utilized in full once we get moved over there. We went with a company called Trio that actually delivers the frozen meals to us now for our Meals on Wheels programs and the meals that we have over at Union Baptist Church. Those areas for sure are going to be protected by a offline generator, so that if we lose power, we don't have to worry about losing our frozen goods and our foods that are in there. Depending on where our budget comes out, we may look at a full facility generator if our budget comes in low enough. Right now, we're right at that mark we need to be at. So depending on what kind of grants we get or what kind of donations we get, we'll look at maybe trying to protect the whole facility. And it went off, Susan. It went to sleep. So, and that being because in the event we lose power in that area, and I don't know that it's likely, that's probably a priority area because of the hospitals and Ouachita Behavioral and things that are there. So it's if you'll notice up on the right-hand side there, we're going to have a pickleball court. We're going to have some outdoor dining, some gardens. It's going to present very well. We believe that it's laid out as well as it can be. This is about the fourth presentation that we've gotten from them as far as the layout and trying to make everything fit and not wind up at 15,000 square feet or something, which would be over budget. Visited with Harrison Construction this past week, and he believes that right now we're at that $3.5 million mark to do this. We think that there may be some savings along the way. And if any of y'all want this, we can forward you the email later with these conceptual drawings in it so you can see them. But we may be able to find some savings along the way to knock a little bit off of that price. And then, of course, we're going to apply for the grant as soon as we get the lease back. I did visit with Craft and Toll today. They're doing the engineering on the groundwork and the survey on it. The information we got back from CHI, there's about 4 easements across there. 3 of them we know where they're at. One of them is for a railroad from 1882. And so I'm not sure exactly where that lands on there, but we're gonna have them mark that out so we can make sure that we don't adversely affect it. Of course, there's something on all sides of it, so it's already corrupt to begin with, so that we wouldn't have a problem there. But it did show up in an old deed that there was the name of the railroad was like Arkansas South Line or something like that. It was a railroad I've never heard of, and I don't know what it was passed down to, but that was really the only thing that caught us off guard as far as an easement. There's an electrical easement and sewer and things of that nature, but I don't know that we're going to have any issues with those. And for those of you that weren't here, I think most everybody was, but this all started, we started looking for a place to put a senior center. And we've looked at 10 properties probably, just drove by and looked at some others. We went in, nothing seemed to meet our needs or would not be cost effective to try to go in and rehab it and make it like we needed it to be. And plus we wanted something that we could be proud of. We got the idea, CHI was the operator for years here of our senior center. And so in meetings with them, we got the idea of maybe having them either donate or give us a long-term lease on some property and build it there, since it's so centrally located and everything's there. The bus route is there. It's close to healthcare. It's close to the YMCA. I mean, I can envision, there's a pickleball court in the back of the building there, but I can envision us kind of partnering with some of those agencies to provide another a line of something for them, that maybe we take a bus and we take seniors one day over to the YMCA and they swim or something like that. But anyway, we started coming up with a way that we would fund this, and we decided that we would borrow the money from our OMH fund, which if you're familiar with the OMH fund, it's where we do all of our grants from. We borrow the money from there, and then when the reimbursable part of it comes back in, we pay that fund back. We will borrow the money to do this from our OMH fund. Any donations or grants that we receive, of course, will be appropriated to go back into that fund to pay the fund back, because the interest that it draws is a significant part of our revenue. But we will continue to ask, and we'll probably open up some pages to where we've got an opportunity for anyone to donate to the county senior center. Both the city and the county have budgeted $100,000 per year to help fund the operations, and then the area agency on aging has a grant that they receive. And I'm praying that the federal government doesn't cut those grants out that they get. I believe right now they're getting about $530,000 a year. I'd have to look at those documents, but I believe that they get about $530,000 a year to fund those Meals on Wheels programs in the senior center. And Kathy Packard from Oaklawn Center on Aging has been working. She's actually going to retire, and she's going to start offering some classes here to help us out. She'll be able to participate in this and give some of the evidence-based programs that they do there, Tai Chi and things like that. We've had a lot of input on the design, especially inside, from the Area Agency on Aging staff and Kathy, because they've operated these before, and so they know exactly what they're going to do and what they need in there. And some of the things that I thought they needed in there, they did not need. I thought they would need carpet like this, and they said absolutely not. They got to be able to turn their feet on it, doing Tai Chi and things. There's a pool room in there for pool to play pool in. There's several classrooms in there. There'll be an area for instruction on laptops, things like that. I believe that from the outside, they'll bring in financial people to help them with learning finances and helping them with their stuff as they grow older and may not have family to take care of. The biggest thing about this, it will be a social interaction area. I mean, everybody will come here for that. We've got a dining area there. We'll seat 100 people. And then you see we've also got overflow outside. In the event that we had more than that, we've got room. We could put a few more tables in there and seat over 100.
Throw a new one at you. I was talking to Adam before we started, possibly a branch that would be senior focused of a library room or part of a room for the library to Garland County Library to having a little expansion into that would focus on seniors and maybe audio books, things that would appeal to the seniors as far as big print, Adam said. Big print's a big deal. It's getting to be more important all the time.
So they had a library room in there, and they said that the library room in McCauley was not used. Nobody ever used it, and so they took it out. But as you can see, there's some small areas there that can be utilized. I mean, there's nothing wrong with in one of those classrooms there being an area in there for the library. And so I think that's a great idea, and I think as we get closer, that's something we want to look at. But this is just about the layout we'll have to go with, not necessarily in that configuration, but with that square footage. And we've cut, I think our biggest need will be the kitchen area and the freezer and refrigerator area to try to keep our Meals on Wheels programs active. But yeah, that's a great idea, and that's something that as we get closer, we'll start coming up with those ideas, and we'll sit down with AAA and we'll sit down with Adam and other members of our community and try to get some input as to what they need, and then they can always donate to it as well. The library could always donate funding towards that as well. So there's a lot of things that can be gained by that, I believe. I mean, not just having them in there as a partner, but they donate and they contribute to the community itself. And I think that's something we need to look at, because I think the grant that we're applying for has a possible $1.5 million. And so far, visiting with West Central Arkansas Planning and Development, they told me, if you read between the lines, a senior center is something that they really want to give that funding to. So we have to have a lease in hand before we can send the grant paperwork in. And I'm hoping to get that real soon from CHI, and then we can complete it and send it in. Laney's been working on it. I expect us to get something from it, but I would love to get the 1.5 million. I've got a couple other groups that I'm going to go speak to and offer this as well and show them what we've got and ask for some funding from them as well. So you'll probably hear somebody, man, the county judge is constantly in here asking for money, but we're going to see if we can't get a lot of that funding so that we don't have to pay for it all out of pocket. But if we do, I think we're all on board to try to make sure it happens. Any other questions?
I did. On the stuff that the McCauley Center had before, I know they at one point in time had said that they had like tables and kitchen equipment and all kinds of trucks and so forth like that. Has anybody discussed what they can donate that wouldn't have to be an expenditure, that could maybe be used for something else if we needed it?
So anything that belongs to AAA, Area Agency on Aging, we can transfer it. I don't know how much of that kitchen equipment we would want to transfer, because it's probably aged and dirty, and we may wind up better just try to get new equipment in there. But the tables for that area, everything that belonged to AAA, we can certainly take from there. And CHI indicated that anything they had, they would work out something with us. So the trucks that they had where they were in good shape, I'm sure that they'll continue to be used on the Meals on Wheels, and I believe they're actually being used right now by AAA for a large part of not the congregate meals, but the meals that are actually delivered out. And so
it can those things can be used until they need to be replaced, which would say
yes, and CHI had a pretty good program in place to try to roll forward with their equipment. They had updated it recently, but it's figuring out who's going to operate those and who's going to supply all that stuff for it will be something that we'll call on our provider. If it winds up having to be the area agency on aging that operates it, then they'll be the ones dealing with that. But what they'll do is just like they did with this one, they'll send out an RFP for somebody to operate our senior center. And man, I'd love to have Corey and his group doing it because they're doing a fantastic job with it right now. So we'll see what we get as far as somebody to come in and operate it when they do the RFP, but that'll be closer to the time that it's actually constructed and we're ready to start moving forward with it.
And the group that's doing the meals now that took the place for Meals on Wheels, are they going to continue indefinitely, or is that just a interim?
It's the Union Missionary Baptist Church is the one that's doing all that right now, and then Area Agency on Aging is there indefinitely. I mean, it's actually their program. They are funded through grants, and they're the ones that actually oversaw it. But CHI was the operator of it. It's kind of like Jimmy Young doing business as Young Jacks. You know, he's the guy that actually has the deal, but Young Jacks is the operator, more or less. It's a similar situation. So we've got some good people in place right now, and I know that Corey and his group, his family, were good enough to get us through this time, and we were kind of in limbo, didn't have anywhere to do our meals out of, and man, they stepped up big time. And you can ask Jimmy; he was there, and Thomas was there. They've got a fantastic venue over there, and there was a lot of people there involved in sports in the game area, and there was certainly a lot of people there eating. Mm-hmm. But yes, that's something that we'll do another RFP when we get closer and see if we can get an operator for it. And if Union wants to do it again, I'm sure that they'll work something out with Area Agency on Aging, and then we'll just contribute to the operations of it to try to make sure that we do our part to keep it rolling.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
In reference to the lease agreement you were talking about, do you have any idea about how the length of the lease you would want?
So we initially talked about 50 years, actually 49 years. Since then, they've thrown the number of 30 with continuing numbers at like a 30-year lease with 5-year leases afterwards. So many of those, we want to get it to around 50 years because they're the reason they came up with the number 30 first, because they said that's about what they believe that the life of a building is. And John and I both told him at the time, we're in one that's 115 years old right now. So we make our stuff last a lot longer. But I think that from talking to, his name is Charles Bagwell, that we're dealing with at the real estate level of CHI or Common Spirit Health, and talking to him, they're kind of willing to do whatever we need to do. When I first talked to Lori Musser about it from CHI, she had mentioned that 49-year lease, there was a little bit difference in it in 50 years, but I think what we'll do is put provisions in there for extensions, provided the operations of it is still going and it's still a valuable asset.
I've looked at the property on Ag Data Scout. Is it 4 acres?
4.3.
4.3
acres there from side to side, the whole parcel.
So is there a potential there for walking trails and some horticultural areas?
It probably is
to
at
do
some
flowers
point.
And get the maybe gardener group in and let them do some programs where, beautify it from within the house and give the seniors something they love to do.
So you've seen our footprint, so you kind of know where we're going to be on the property. I think we're going to be utilizing 2.9 acres.
Right.
So that would certainly open the opportunity to do more. And what we would do is reach out to maybe AJ and get him to help us lay out some walking trails from Cedar Glades Park. And I'm sure the City of Hot Springs, their Greenway group, would probably be more than willing to help us with that.
Right.
And I'd pretty much bet the
That's
CHI
outdoor
would help
activity.
us with
And
I think it'd be ideal. It's a little hilly. The terrain on the north side of it is pretty hilly, but overall it's a great piece of property.
Maybe a garden like the library's doing.
Yeah. So we just want to try to get this level of it done before we explore any other opportunities. And once we get it on the ground, then I think that piece of property will
Yep.
Especially if we can make sure that their lease encompasses the whole thing, because that walking trail could be used by anybody in the group. We just don't want to create a concealed area. And I told them in the design of the building, please don't make any alcoves where homeless may take shelter, or,
Right.
it's difficult we've had several around here where we've got a little alcove of a building, or maybe something that's concealing a HVAC unit. Just, we've got to make it where they don't have access there, because that's where they'll go. And then unfortunately, there's damage that occurs. I know that Adam and I have battled it for a long time over at the health department and the library. Until we put that last section of fence up, they were coming in and staying in the alcoves, and the hot lines coming off of the pressure lines coming off the HVAC units, they would use those for heat. And they would, even though it takes a key to turn the water on, they would get a pair of pliers and somehow open the water up, and they would just leave it on. So it's something that we're going to look at in the design going in, that we don't have those areas to where someone can take shelter in there. And that would be bad if the wrong person was there, and we have seniors over there. And I'm not saying that all homeless people are bad, but some people just don't like to be around folks like that. And I think that if they have to take the advantage, they will there. But that's wooded there, and so we may be disturbing someone's home in there when we start clearing it out.
One more benefit I want to mention, and I have some printouts, and it's a problem with having printers in like 3 different places on your property, at your office and home, and an RV. And so I print things and I never get back to getting them. But the quality of life that a senior citizen adds to a community is staggering. The savings to families, because people extend in a center where they have activities, friends, interaction, day to day. It delays by 1 or 2 years a lot of people's entering into assisted living or a rest home. It's very beneficial economically to a community in that loved ones are happy. That's very important. But they're extending their independent lives because they have got a place. And one other program, I mentioned the library. I hope that we can work with the city to do a bus token that covers transportation only to the Senior Citizen Center from any part of town where a senior living on Park Avenue or Whittington or wherever could have this bus token, ride the bus to the senior citizen only and back. And that way we could get the city involved in helping with the bus service and get seniors a way to not feel like they're isolated in another part of town, but they'll be offered a bus ride every day if they want to come every day.
Yeah, we've got a commitment to have a bus route that goes there. And of course, they're kind of, as you know, the FHWA kind of guidelines where they have to take the buses, but that's something they can utilize for that. And the token part of it, I think that's something that, I don't know why we couldn't reach out to some of our senior living facilities and ask them to help us with donation of tokens or something like that in the city of Hot Springs, and the money that we're providing for operations. I think we could use it for that. But these senior living facilities, if they had a group of people that wanted to go out for a program, I think it'd be great if they brought their bus and brought them to the senior center. And because I know when my parents, at least my dad for sure, when he was in full care, there was 2 years that nobody could even go in and see him. And I fully believe to this day that led to the downfall of his life, because he was so lonely, and there was actually no social interaction except with the people that worked in there. And it was, he was fully bedridden, and they would bring him out and try to put him into a box there where I could talk to him through a window, and it just didn't work. But this is something that, if we can get those individuals to come, I think that their mental health, the social health, and their emotional well-being will be so much. There's a lot of people, Jimmy, that don't have any family left that live here in Garland County, and they go to a home and they don't see anybody. Nobody goes there. I've talked to several caseworkers at the senior facilities, and they say there are people that don't ever have anybody come see them. And this is an opportunity. If they brought, let's just say Belvedere, that nursing home up there, and it's a very nice one. If they loaded their people up on their bus and everybody that wanted to go brought them out there for 1 day a week or something, and they did have an opportunity. I don't know if you've ever watched Landman, but maybe they want to take them something like that too. You never can tell. But this is I mean, when I start talking about, you start thinking about all the opportunities available here that we can provide and that we can supply, that really don't cost anything, but it saves the community so much in mental health. And I believe that you and I are on the same point. Mental health leads to physical health problems. You know, if you don't have good mental health, you will lead because you just give up.
These exercise programs, I watched them do up at Union and have seen in some of these other programs, it seems like it's not a lot, but it does so much for the body and the mind. And they know how to, they design these programs to where it gives them a spark. And so you're extending people's lives and you're making people, we're a market that demographically, we have senior aged people to much greater population density than most towns. So we're excited.
There's very few people in this room that can't utilize it already. So I mean,
I'll be 73 in July. I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, and we're going through. I've been working with Daniel George today to try to figure out what the planning process is, what steps we have to go through to make sure it's zoned correctly and all of that. But we're working on getting the lease done, and I would love to be able to see a groundbreaking on it in August. And if we can't get there, maybe September. But I would really like to get the dirt work done before the rainy season sets in, because it's just so much easier to do it when it's a little drier. Not necessarily arid dry, but it's much easier to do it then. Anybody have any other questions? But yes, sir.
How many people do we plan on employing for this?
We're not going to employ anyone right now.
All volunteer?
It's all going to be either the person that gets the RFP, the proposal, that person, or area agency on aging will supply the staff. Most of it is volunteer. Kathy Packard has agreed to help me. I told her as long as I was alive, and she's got questions about that, but she's agreed to help me with supplying the evidence-based programs there, the Tai Chi and the things. She does it at McCauley Center now. She's retiring from the Oaklawn Center on Aging, so she'll be able to devote more time to this. I asked her to operate it for us, and she said she wasn't up to that yet, but she'll be very good at that, and she'll get other volunteers. And that's most of it right now is volunteers. They have a few people that work in the kitchen cooking and stuff, but I think we've kind of found another way to do that, which supplies probably a more nutritious meal, and it's at less cost, and it especially if you're taking it out and delivering it to Meals on Wheels. The frozen trio meals are, I think we're paying in the mid $4 range for those meals, and they'll bring you, and you get even a better savings if you can bring more meals at one time. So as we get a larger area here to store those, you get a bigger truck, and it doesn't have to come as often, then you save on your freight. So you'll start to see a savings there as well. So we can even reduce that, and it's a very good meal. I mean, you saw what they've had over there. Jimmy's actually been over there one day and had a lunch meal, I believe.
Yep, it was very good.
I know a lot of people don't think about, but even at the Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, we discussed the fact that we have so many grandparents who are raising kids who can't afford to go to the movies, or who can't afford to go to the Y, or who can't afford different things. And this is a great way for them to kind of be refreshed and for them to have a free meal so that they can spend the money they have on the kids that they're helping to raise. And so it's a great mental boost and an emotional and physical boost for them. So it has many, many values that just we don't even think about day by day.
Yeah, I don't think anybody sitting at these tables is adverse to it at all. I think we all would love to have it open today. And there's, if you're not a senior, I think there's going to be an option for you to pay for a meal there. I think that we saw that in both Pope and Polk.
Mina was $4 if
Yeah,
you're
exactly right.
not a senior. Below 60, I believe, was $4 for the meal.
I did talk to the Pope County judge last Friday, and he was telling me that Pope County itself was looking at perhaps having to take theirs over because the operator that they got was not going to be able to operate it any longer, but they would have to take it over for a minimum amount of time till they could find a new provider. But last year, I think the surrounding counties here lost funding for the group that was taking care of all the senior centers. And since then, the Area Agency on Aging has got their grants back and picked that back up. But it's something we always have to keep in mind and make sure that we're one step ahead of that, so that we've got our hand raised first before anybody else does. But I'm I like the design of it. It's going to be, the exterior for sure is going to be pretty simple to take care of. Interior as well. And it's got a good look. I mean, it really presents well, and it kind of fits in with the other items that CHI has built around there. It's got the breezeway where you drive through and the pier. So it kind of matches like the building we had looked at down there on, down there where Dr. Michael, can't think of his last name right now, Bodeman, where his place was.
With the mold.
They kind of had a place where you would drive through there. And so this kind of fits that. It's very open. You got a lot of sunlight, natural light coming in. And from what I've understood, that's a big deal. You want to have as much natural light as you can in there for the well-being of the seniors. So I'm pretty excited about it. I'm anxious to get some dirt start moving, and there's just a lot to go through before you get there. And Michael Harrison is our construction manager. When we did the RFPs for it, we hired him. David French is the architect on it, and then Crafton Toll will be the engineer working through David French. And that's basically just to get the groundwork right and install the storm drains and the retention ponds, everything that has to be done. So we've got Michael brought me a budget by last Friday, and he's got it honed down to like $3.5,229 or something like that. So we saw some areas that we might have another savings depending on how our dirt work comes. And there's some items here like, the pickleball court, it takes a special surface to go on the pickleball court. And we will probably reach out we have a local supplier, probably the largest supplier of pickleball accessories in the United States. And we'll reach out to Vince and see if he could help us with that, or get us in touch with the person that provides that and see if we can get some donations from there as well.
Great. Side question. Can you use retention ponds for anything other than retention of water runoff? Because I've never seen anybody in a business that's got a nice retention pond that's fished in it.
Waterfalls.
I'm hoping nobody,
Water fountains.
Water fountains.
I'm hoping nobody takes a bath in it.
Water fountains.
There's a certain amount of sediment that comes off the properties and a certain amount of runoff that comes in there from a parking lot. Actually, there'll be oil dropped out of a car or something. So I don't know what the quality of that water would be, but I think that I have seen them used like for a waterfall or something like that. But the deal is that they're only active when it's raining.
Most of them are ugly.
Yeah, they are. So they're only active when it's raining. So you don't really have an opportunity to make a nice waterfall or pump water up through it. So yeah, it would be great to have it for something else. But we're going to have one right down on the corner down here too, which when we get our parking lot built. But any other questions on the senior center?
Yes, sorry to go back to the volunteer. Who's the volunteer lady you're speaking of? That's going to be
Kathy Packard.
Kathy Packard.
Uh-huh.
Guess what I'm thinking is, I'm part of several not-for-profits, and not-for-profits are always looking for ways to get back to the community, and this would be a good opportunity for them to do that. So I'll probably get her contact number for you after this meeting.
Sure.
Thank you.
Cooking classes.
Yeah, I think they actually do those.
Combine with some of the schools and get them out and let the older men teach some cooking skills so they can cook like grandma cooked.
They at McCauley Center, they do a number of things. And like I say, I believe, when you don't have anybody to help you with financing, and I think that they've got somebody that comes in maybe once a week or maybe once a month. And if you've got an IRS question, if you got a tax question, something like that, you can come in. And that's what I would really like to see, is getting somebody from our community that is a specialist in something, whether it be a doctor, a dentist, somebody come in there and visit with those folks that come by there. Maybe we have somebody comes and wants to donate some dental services for those people, at least give them a checkup, something like that. Most of them will have Medicare. So there's an opportunity here, I believe, to have some community members put a lot into this and just by providing a service. And I think we've got a lot that will.
Well, we'll let you move on, Daryl.
I'm glad to answer any questions.
I know. Any other questions on the Senior Citizen Center? Okay.
As it starts to ripen, we'll get deeper into it, and then we'll have several more meetings where we've got some input. Good. But we're probably 60 days out from knowing our next moves, unless something happens quicker. I'm going to reach out and try to make some things happen that a little faster. But the ball only turns so slow, and everybody's got so much going on right now. Yeah. And Jimmy, I'm going to put you in charge of getting it to stop raining for a few weeks. So I
wonder if I can do that. Thank you so much. I'm pumped up.
Susan's
To say
got a
the
picture of a big dirt area there, and you can kind of get the scale of what we're looking at by that long arm excavator there on the right-hand side. That's the next cell of the landfill. That is phase 3, cell 1, and it's we've got all that part done. We let the bids on that. McHenry Meyer got the construction of the next cell and the closure of phase 1, cell 1. We'll be doing the West Bank closure on that, and all of that you see there and the closure area is going to be covered with clay. That is 18 inches there, and it's 6 inches over on the closure. So we're actually covering total with our cell and that about 10 acres with clay. And that clay that meets that perfect specification is very difficult to find. That's actually, when you look at our bids we had 3 bidders on it. 2 of them came in at 1.9 and some change. 1 of them came in at 1.5 and some change. And the only difference was the fact the low bidder had clay here in Garland County that they could transport, and they didn't have to go to another county to get it. So that was, everything else just about was the same as far as equipment hours, man hours, and everything. So they were the winning bidder. But we've got a pre-construction meeting on July the 7th, and they'll probably start working on it then. This rain's put them a little bit behind. It's the same company that had all the equipment destroyed in Saline County. I don't know if you were familiar with that on Facebook. They had an enormous amount of equipment destroyed in Saline County by an unhappy ex-employee that's got a new home now. He's got a new address. And so they're doing everything they can. They're doing our riverbank stabilization job, and they're doing that one there, and they're going to be a subcontractor for the parking lot here. So they're pretty involved with Garland County right now. They've been super to work with in the past. They have a new owner now, but this guy he's on top of everything, and he already had his clay ready for testing the day of the bid letting. So we're looking for great things out of them. They have enough equipment that they can get it done quickly. So that's what we're working on next. You can see there's some straw wattles and some those are actually big hay bales out there in the middle that you see, and that's a long arm excavator down there. That's okay. You can stop right there. Now, this is a 70 West transfer station. Your finger's too heavy on there. She's just trying to keep me guessing. That's what it is. All right, so we're looking at the landfill expansion there still. That's, if you go in the landfill, this is far to the east from the entrance. When you go in the entrance, you just go to the right, and as you go around to the landfill working face, that area is over on the far east part of the property. The trail for the bike, the Cedar Glades Park, goes right outside the perimeter there and comes around. Now we're ready to go on to the transfer station. So this is our 70 West transfer station. This is an early picture of it. We had a lot of the red iron up. We've actually moved over into the new phase of it. We're operating out of there. As we go through the pictures, we'll be able to tell a little bit more about it. But this is before they had got much done on the end towards the north, which was the last they took down. You can go ahead and go next. Okay. Go to the one on the far right down there. That one. So that's a picture of it after the fire. That's what we operated out of since April of 23, I believe it was, or maybe July of 23. That's what we've operated out of right there, is a structure that was burned on one side, and we continued to utilize it. We'd set up some temporary lighting in there, and it had gutted the office, and so we had a camper trailer put out there for them to at least go in someplace and be able to have their lunch. And it's I sent these to Susan in an order that she's got to close out of one to go to another one. But yeah. So and here it is. We're getting a little closer here. That area that you see that truck backed into there, that's where our class 4 goes. The stuff that comes from there and goes to our landfill. We have an area to back a truck in there, and that's where, when they're sorting through the trash in there on the floor, the stuff that doesn't need to go to Bryant and be paid for as a class 1 rate we put in that truck and take up and dispose of it in our landfill. Sometimes people bring in a lot of building materials and things like that and dump it in there, and they're willing to pay the price to take it to bauxite, but we sort through it, and the stuff that doesn't need to go to bauxite, we take up and put in our landfill because it's a significant amount of money that we pay less to do that. So we made it a little more convenient to get to. The area just to the, that's okay. The area just to the left there where you see that bin sitting, that's the area we're going to have for our recycling. We'll set up our recycle bins there, and now we'll have an area that you can drive up and make a circle in front of them, get out and unload your stuff into the recycle bins, and then make a loop and come right back out. Before it was kind of skewed, that you kind of had to go up in a hole there and get in the way of the trucks and put your stuff in bins there. But we're getting it segregated out to where it'll be a lot easier to use. So we hope to pick up more recycling and make it a little more beneficial to the recycling efforts. Yep. That is looking from the end. If you can look closely, you see the back of a tractor trailer in there. That's the area they drive into to be loaded with the class 4 or class 1. It goes all the way through. We've got room to put 2 tractor trailers in there. So the speed that we can move is going to be a lot greater. And something else about doubling the size of this, in the event we have a day that the landfill is closed over there, like from ice or something like that we've gone through in the past, we've got room on the floor now to hold more trash. So if our house-to-house people can get out and pick it up, we don't have a problem with not being able to pick it up. We've got more room on our floor. We can store it longer there. It's going to be covered, and then we can load it up and get it over to bauxite. Right now, the way it's set up, we kind of have to leave it out on the street in the trash cans because we don't have anywhere to go with it once we get in. I believe 2 years ago when we had an ice event, we had every floor full and absolutely every trailer available full and all of our roll-off bins full. Billy can tell you the trash never stops coming. But you can enter from either end here. You can enter from this end, or you can go around and enter from the other end. Multi-purpose, whichever way works best, whichever end they're working on. And you can actually put 2 in at a time in there to try to load 2 trucks. If you've got a staff there, you can actually load 2 trucks at a time if we've got a lot of trash on the floor, which is what we would do in the event that we wind up with a lot of trash on the floor. And on the floor is just a term used that once the house-to-house collector brings it in and dumps it, we call it on the floor, and then we sort through it. And, if it's in a bag, we of course throw the bag away. But at times, we wind up having to check everything in there with a Geiger counter. We've had a series of refusals when we got to bauxite in the past, where it was radioactive when it got there. Our load was radioactive. And 9 times out of 10 so far, it has been someone taking the radiation pills and an elderly person using a diaper. And the diaper, there's a protocol. When you go to Genesis, they tell you once your waste is here, you need to bring those back, and they have a way to dispose of them over there. But a lot of people just throw them away. And then when it gets over to bauxite, it'll set a Geiger counter off, and we have to come back with it. When we bring it back, then we have to unload it, and Billy and his staff have to find that, locate it. So we've got a process now. Each one of our transfer stations is going to have that counter that check that radioactivity. And so as it comes in, and we'll miss some, but this will be a little bit more refined as it's dumped out of a truck. The 10 tons that's dumped out of a local house-to-house collector, we'll check and see if we get any big readings before we load it into a trailer. And so that'll save us a little bit of time there. But there's quite a bit to it when you start trying to load it. That's a push block there. That's the back side of the loading. You can see that area there that's open. That's where the top of the trailer is. The material gets pushed over in there, and that on the back wall is basically just to protect the back wall and to stop any trash from getting down between the truck and the trailer. We're trying to make it where it's as refined as possible so that you don't spend a lot of time with your staff down there trying to clean up from loading a truck or trailer. So this is the new part that we're operating out of right now. As you can see, the red iron is up on the part where we tore the old one down and we're rebuilding. This is the looking from the north end. You can see the purlins up for the ceiling. All the rebar is laid out for the floor. You can see it's pretty heavily made. There's a lot of rebar in there, and it's about a 8-inch slab that they're putting back in there, and then it's reinforced concrete. But you can see they're coming along well with it. I think that they said they were about 84% complete right now. So we're looking at maybe sometime in August, with it barring any more problems, sometime in August that we can get in there. And we've actually, so far, we've actually had about 5 change orders, but there were enough change orders in our favor to offset any change order that was an add. So, and it was just discrepancies in the engineering. There wasn't that we added anything. We just saw a problem when we got to it. And so we're actually a little bit to the good on the budget out there with it right now. And yeah, just that's looking at it from the north end as well. You can see the nose of the truck there that you've seen from the other end. You can see how far back in there it is. So we've got ample room there. A little area of red iron that goes out to your left on the screen there. That's the office that we're building back on there, which have a bathroom and a break room and someplace to do their paperwork in there to try to make sure we're in compliance with everything. We've got a ramp going up the front. We'll have several access points for the house-to-house people to make a loop rather than having to come back out the same entrance that they went in. And that's something we had before, that they would have to go in and dump and then come back out or back into the building. So safety is always in mind here. You want to go back as little as you can. You want to keep moving forward and keep everything moving in a circular direction. So we'll accomplish that with this, but it's getting very close. And our contractor, Harrison Construction, and his superintendent there, Randy Kincannon, they've been great to work with. And as you can see, they've got a lot of good stuff going on there. I don't know, that may be the last one of the transfer station. We'll go to, it's going to be a very good looking building. We went ahead and put the skylights back around the top so it provides some natural lighting. We won't have to have lights on in there all the time during the bright sunlight, but it's we're kind of anxious to get done with it. I know Billy's pretty proud of it, and we are too.
So where's this transfer station located?
It's out just past Northmore Road. Turn to the right on Country Walk Terrace. It goes directly to that landfill transfer station. It's
Is that right about where Tedder's is, or somewhere in that area? Is it further back? Is it back Tedder's line shop?
You turn in where Tedder's shop is. That's Country Walk Terrace beside the tractor dealer. You just go down that street. And there's a big transformer station there for energy. You just go down that, and as you go behind Tedder's, which has been a great neighbor to it, been allowing us construction people to park in their lot so we don't block everything up. They've been super. But you go back there and it's right behind there. It's kind of concealed. You don't ever see it from the road.
Yeah, because I thought, what's back there? One time I started driving back and see what they.
Yeah, we left a lot of the natural foliage around it so that you don't see it unless you're there. And then there's a horse farm to the north of it there that you can see it from, but it presents well. Yeah. This is a layout of our parking lot that we're building for the sheriff's office vehicles down here, so we can move the vehicles off the front that park in the front lot. We can move them down and park them below the sheriff's office where we tore the old children's clinic down, and open those spots up for district court or circuit court. Most days we're running 3 circuit courts in this courthouse, 1 circuit court in the district court building, and then 2 district court buildings. So we'd never have enough parking for district court because they see 300 people a day over there. I assume they do. Their docket is always full. But this is the way it's going to be laid out. As you can see, there's the arrows on the bottom is where it comes in off of Hazel Street. There'll be parking in there. There's room along the, if you're looking at that, and north to the southeast corner of it there, you'll be looking at an area we can pull in with a car and park a trailer along there, or whatever we need to do there. Make a loop. You can see the walkway that goes over into the sheriff's office. That is a security gate there. It will be coated with the same card that they use to go in and out of the sheriff's office building. So those employees over there will just have to carry 1 card or 1 fob, whichever it is, and they'll be able to access that. The exterior gate will be access controlled as well, and each vehicle will have a button in it to push to go in and out of that gate. It'll have a free exit loop on the inside. When they get close to it, it'll open automatically. But that'll get this parking that's up front, our employees, and the units that are not in use. Some employees can't take their vehicle home because they live out of the county or something like that. So that will move those, and if there's any spares, it will move them down there and free up all that parking up there for district court, it'll add about 50 places for us to use up there, which is significant. It came in a little bit under bid as well. So we made a few changes after the bid went out. We reduced the amount of asphalt going down, and they had thermoplastic striping figured in the bid, and we just went with regular paint striping because it's not going to have highway traffic on it or anything like that. So we reduced it a little bit, and I think we saved about $30,000 when we made those changes to it. And you'll see, Jimmy, there's our detention pond and outfall structure down at the bottom in the lower right-hand corner there. It's where it goes out onto the corner of Woodbine and Hazel.
How many parking spaces?
50. Other than the ones along the side over here, which they couldn't mark, but there's plenty of room. You can see the distance from the end of the parking place down. And that's the best utilization of that area we've got down there we could possibly do. Next. What's next? Yeah, we can go there. So our Cedar Glades Bridge, this is where we're at as of Saturday afternoon. No, excuse me. Yeah, Saturday afternoon, this is where we were at. You really need a mouse, don't you? As you can see, we're up out of the water now. These are y'all try to focus on that. This is actually a game. We're seeing who can focus who can. So we're up out of the water now. As you can see, those bents right there, those are piles that are driven. They're roughly 30 feet in the ground. 12 by 12 H piles were driven, and then those came up out of the ground, those cylinders, and they'll be backfilled with concrete. They are, as you can see, the end ones, the one on the far side, the one on this side. I couldn't get out to the one in the center because the water was too deep and I couldn't climb up on them, but I think they're filled with concrete as well. So we're down to just building the caps on them, which is what the structures sit on. Once they get the caps built and we get a good breakout back on the concrete, they'll be able to set the slabs back on there. So we're getting really close on that. I'm thinking that if we can get just a few weeks of good weather, we'll be through early July with that. It's moving right along. You can see right there, you can look down in there around those H piles, and there's concrete in all those. And then we put slurry and riprap along the edges underneath it. We're actually raising it 6 inches from where it was because the old bridge was carrying 8 inches of asphalt. And so we're only going to put 2 inches back on there. You got more pictures, Susan? Got any other pictures of anything? All right, so anybody got any questions about those? All right, let's go through a couple more here that we've got. Talked about transfer station. We talked about the parking lot. Talked about Cedar Glades. Generator at District Court. Generator was delivered last Friday. They've got it on the ground over there. They're waiting on transfer switches to come in. And I don't think it'll be over a month before we get those in. So we're putting a whole facility generator in over there as well. I know several times when our powers went out, they've got full courtrooms over there. And when you lose all your power, that's a little bit dangerous to try to get everybody escorted out of there. Some of them may be in the holding cell waiting to go to jail. But everybody's over there for a reason, and it's usually a problem. But we're installing that. We put it in our budget last year. It actually came in under budget as well. I think we had $250,000 budgeted, and it came in at $174,000. So we saved a little bit of money there. And Gingrich Electrical, that's done the others for us, is doing that one as well. They've been great to work with. They work on Friday evening. They don't do a shutdown when we're in court over there and make us lose a day. They always come in and do their wiring when we're off. And then on Friday evening, we stay late and we do a shutdown of all the electricity through Entergy, and they get everything wired in with the transfer switches, and then have Entergy come back that same night and fire us back up so that we don't lose any time at district courts. And that's huge, trying to get somebody to do that for you. It's a blessing. I hate to even tell you this one. It's been going on since 2019. Our safe room is supposed to be up here for our EOC. We're still waiting to hear back from our last tranche of federal funding to build that. French is the architect on that. Harrison is the construction manager, and West Central Arkansas Planning and Development is the grant agency that's been working on that. Courtney Decker down there, she's been there about a year now. She has been super on top of things. She really has a good thought process for how the grant process works, and she's got us a lot deeper into getting this the issue was we bid this before COVID hit, and it was about $586,000, and we got the grant. And it's a reimbursable grant, so you had to spend it to get it. Well, COVID hit. The next bid was $1 million. We've bid it 4 times since then, both with the construction manager and without, and it still comes out at $1 million. So what we did, we went back to the federal government and said, here's why we need more money since COVID. It's a FEMA mitigation grant is what it is. We need more money. And so this process has been going on since 2019. That's when this started. And so we got really close late last year. And then with administration change, there's been a lot of new people in office. So our contacts have kind of changed, but we believe that we're really close to having it now. Some other things, some other federal grants that we'd had fears that we might lose. I haven't seen any of that yet. We're still getting all of our grants like we should. So I'm hoping that this year might be the year. It's only been 7 years, so this might be the year. I was just talking to Justice Eds about this before we got started tonight. We have a riverbank stabilization project going on where the South Fork of the Saline River meets Deer Park up on the north side. For years now, the South Fork of the Saline has been eroding its way, moving further east. And the last 2 flooding situations that we've had, it has undermined. Last time it took a wing wall off the bridge that we have there, and it has also started to undermine the road. And there's a home nearby there that it has been up. It's a double wide set on blocks, but it's been up underneath there. It's been in John's house. It's a really nosy river that goes through there because it gets in everything it can. But it had really started to erode that bank, and we took some emergency measures to put it back. And so last June, after our May floods, we asked to apply for a grant the first week of June, and Courtney got that to put together and applied, and we actually got the grant by the end of June. It's a reimbursable grant as well, but it's the project there came in a little bit under what the grant was for. So we believe that we're going to be covered. We won't cover all of our engineering costs because there was a lot of hydrology went into this. There's also some mussels that live in there that we have to be careful about. And I think there may be a catfish that lives in there that we got to be careful about too. Wasn't it a catfish? It was a catfish. So it's going well. They actually started that project. If you've been by there, they've got the red clay imported. They've got the bank shape. They've got the red clay imported. They had a lot of erosion controls out. They're called straw wattles. They're enormous straw wattles. They're about 50 feet long, and they're about I guess they're 12 inches in diameter. And they put those out for erosion control. And Saturday, when I went by and checked on it, it was good that they're staked in place. But one of them was in the riverbed itself. To try to push the water away from the clay. Well, they were all good Saturday. This morning when I went by there, that one is on downstream past the bridge. So it's washed a little ways and went down there. And I want to see the guy that goes down there and tries to pick that up, because you can imagine straw being soaked like that, how heavy it's going to be. But it actually held a lot better than I thought it would. The clay has actually stayed. You can look through the river where it's running along there, and it's still got a bright red color to it. So a lot of that has stayed there. Government building over here, about 3 weeks ago, I had a meeting with Anthony Taylor from Taylor Kempkes, and he is working on trying to take some sampling to see if there's any structural, those pieces that stick out off that building, they're fractured. If you go by and look at them, they're cracked all up. There's a lot of fracture to it. So we are going to take some samples, open them up. We can look down in from the top. If you're the size of Kevin Griffin, which is about that big around, he's the only one to get over to it, but we're going to have to look and see if there's actually any structure to it. If not, we've been trying to work on that building for the past 3 years, and something else is taking the money away from it. So we want to do that. We want to clean that up, and we want to get all of our windows sealed. We've got several leaks around the windows, and there's that awning on the other side. I know if it's ever been raining and you've tried to go in the revenue office, you get drenched trying to go in there. There's a gap between it and the roof, and it continually floods water down in there. So we're working on it a little bit at a time, but we're going to try to get something put together on it this year to take care of those problems and make sure that we don't have a structural issue that we're going to have to fight with those. They appear right now that those pieces that stick out are not structural. They're just for design, but we want to make sure before we take them off of there and open the brick back up that we're not going to have a structural issue. Our plumbing that's in the courthouse, and we discussed that last meeting. We haven't got word yet, but I understand that we didn't get any money from AHPP, so we're going to phase this in over 2 or 3 years, whatever it takes. The plumbing we're going to have to do. I've got them working on a change in engineering to maybe, rather than having to do so much destruction inside the building and be so invasive to have to cut the floor and stuff, to just go out the front of the building into the yard, of course, below ground, rather than going the full length inside there, just go out under the wall and come out and run the sewer lines down the outside. One thing, you'd have much better access. And the other thing is it would prevent much less of a problem for people inside there. We're still going to have to do the work at night and on the weekends, but I think that we can, for the most part, we can shut those 2 bathrooms down that are near the old front door that faces Ouachita and take the plumbing out through there, and everything else kind of feeds to that point. So I've got them working on a change in engineering with that. And I'm hoping that we get back a little better number on what it will cost us. We've got some money budgeted for it, but the plumbing is something that really concerns me because we've had a lot of little leaks spring, and we know that we've got a fracture in the sewer line under there that's leaking pretty badly, that you'd have to cut the floor out to fix. But I'm concerned that one morning we may come in and that 1.5-inch copper line is broken in 2 and water's running out the doors everywhere, because it's likely to do that at any minute. We've had several places where the building is settled, and some of the drains are made out of black pipe, the old ductile black pipe, and where it's settled, you may not have the right pitch, and maybe it's got the inlet a little lower than where it's supposed to go out, and so you don't get that drainage, and it just rots the bottom of the pipe out, and it drips on people when they're in the courtroom and things like that. But anyway, there's a lot that needs to be done there, so I'm going to do everything I can to get the engineering done to where we can get the plumbing done this year, and then maybe the floor next year, and maybe the archway opening up the year after that. We just take it a little bit at a time. We've been kind of like you eat elephant, one bite at a time. We've been working on the HVACs up there since I've been here. I didn't know we had so many HVAC units, but we replace 10 a year whether we want to or not. And it seems like you never get to the end. So and still every day you get a call that somebody there is not working right. So we've been getting grants. So we're actually working through the end of a grant that Laney got for us. It's an energy grant that we've replaced 7 units, and actually it's 100%. We didn't have to come up with anything on it. They did it. That we're just waiting on the voucher to come back. We've got the work complete, and so all the courtrooms there now have new HVAC, so we don't have to worry about those going down. The air is pure. We've got much more energy efficient units in there, and so we've got that much done. Talked about our landfill expansion, the Warren Watson Bridge. It was scheduled to open June the 11th, and of course we couldn't do it because we can't get it paved. The ground's too wet, too much moisture. Continue to have rain. The box is built. The bridge is built. We went up and did some work on the piece of Warren Watson from that bridge on up to where it meets Brook Hill Road. If you've ever traveled that area, there's some really deep ditches there, and they're kind of intimidating for people going in and out of there. So we actually removed the ditches and put a slope on the sides to where that ditch is no longer there. It's not an area you'll drive on, but the intimidation factor is kind of gone from that now. So traffic will be able to move more freely, and they'll feel safer. I had another date of the 16th through the 19th for opening it, but given what we got this weekend, I still don't think we're going to be able to get it paved. We went to get asphalt this morning, and they did not run asphalt today because the only client they had today, it was too wet for them to pave. So hopefully this week, Cranford will be operating the plant at night because they're doing the section of Malvern from Westinghouse out to the county line, and some of it they're doing at night. And so hopefully if they get the plant fired up tonight, then they'll still have it running in the morning where we can get one patch material. And Justice Floyd called me earlier today about that, and we've got several potholes, but we've got 2 patch trucks running, and if we could just get mix, but we've only got one place to get it. The Mill Creek, we've got 2 bridges on Mill Creek. One's a low water crossing that's out in the 4500 block of Mill Creek. It's flooded every time you have a heavy rain. It floods, and it basically cuts public safety off from going through there. And so we're replacing that with a box culvert. They are probably 60% finished with that one. And then site number 2 is at the corner of Kelton and Mill Creek. And that bridge, it's built on rock head walls. It's that old. And we actually had a hole come in it about 3 years ago. We had to replace a lot of B panel on it. And it was deemed structurally deficient by RDOT when they did their inspections. So they just closed it. I put a closure notice out last week. They just closed it to start the demolition of it. So we're getting really close on that one to getting under where they said that they anticipate 4 to 5 months to do that. But once again, that's totally dependent on the weather since they're working in the river. We've got all the acquisitions done. All those projects, the acquisitions are done right away that we had to have for that. And so we're ready to get started on it and get those finished. The next bridges that are going out for bid, we've got 2 on Sentinel. One of them received even more damage during the flood. One of the head walls has moved out about 5 inches on it. It's going to have to be replaced. One on Warwick Drive, going into Far Shores. It's a rail car. We'll be replacing it as well. And then there's another one on Sentinel that we'll be replacing. It's a box that has deteriorated to the point where water is going through it rather than out the other end of it. So we're going to put those out for bid. We're working on acquisitions right now. We have 2 of the sites complete on acquisitions, and then one of the sites we're still waiting. Our acquisition person, David Swatlowski, is working on that. He just hadn't been able to make contact because the people don't actually live there. It's farmland and they live somewhere else. So once we get those acquisitions made, we've already received the 30% plans. So we look to move forward with those bridges and try to get those replaced too. Because we have 120 bridges that are over 20 feet long, and that's a lot to keep up with. Just about every one of them was built on a spread footing, and that's always a problem when you start to have undermining. So we're whittling away at it. It's just a lot to do. I think that's all I got now. If anybody else has got a question.
Have we, early on after the floods, there was not anything, of course, normally that was coming down the pipeline for state and federal aid. Has anything developed to help?
So initially we were denied, from the flood, the area of federal disaster on the April 5th flooding. They actually had timed it from April 2nd until April 20th. We were denied. They came in, they sent a FEMA group here. I sent 2 people out with them, and they said we had $46,000 worth of damage. The bridge on Cedar Glades, they would not let us count that towards our threshold because it's covered under a Federal Highway Administration Emergency Recovery Act. And so I have to apply under that tranche, and they said it could be up to 5 years before we get it there if we get it. So I'm going to follow that path, and RDOT's leading me through it. It's the first one of these I've ever had to do. So there's quite a bit of paperwork involved, and RDOT's been very good at working with me on trying to guide me what to do on it. But we hope to get that, and maybe it won't be 5 years, maybe it'll be 4, but it could be 10 as well. But as long as we know we've got that coming, right, we'll feel a little better. So what I did was I reached out to our legislators, and they made some phone calls, and I asked to have a do-over with FEMA. And I had our contractor that's working on our bridge on Cedar Glades go give me estimates on 2 other bridges that we had damage on. I had our paving contractor that we use every day go give me estimates on 2 areas of scoured road where basically had peeled the chip and seal off and taken part of the base material out. And we're at over $800,000 with just those 4 items. So I sent that back into them, provided that information to them. They came back out. They went back around actually they met in here last Thursday, I guess it was, not the past Thursday, but the Thursday before. They met in here, and they are sending it back in. It looks favorable at this time, but I talked to Cecil McBride, who's the Adam regional representative for us, and I talked to him on Friday, and he said they had 2 more documents together. They were going to send it in, but it did look favorable for us for the amount of damage that we had. And of course, it's combined with the damage that the city has. And I don't know if you've noticed up at DeSoto Park, it took one of those walk bridges out up there. They lost 2 sections of water main that was washed out and had to be replaced. They had some damage at the airport, but I'm guessing that the airport was insured. And so these are uninsured losses that you have to claim here. So I think that we've certainly met the threshold, and we have good documentation to back that up. And I hate to have to go through that because actually this is another example of a bureaucracy that is here to help you that comes in and does not try to help you at all. They looked for reasons why we wouldn't qualify. And every single county around us qualified on the first pass. And I feel like that, there was no reason for us not to. And maybe it's lack of knowledge. Maybe it's that they just didn't look at it closely enough, or they didn't understand what was involved in trying to put an area of scoured road back. You can't just go put some oil and gravel on it. You have to go back in and set your densities. You have to roll it in. You have to do everything. I mean, it's just there's a lot to do that. And then we had a couple of bridges that were undermined. Actually, the one on Sentinel that I was talking about, I got an estimate just to repair that head wall, and it was $380,000. And then out on Piercy Road, there it had washed some of our erosion control away, which is the Ajax that we put in out there, made by Contech. And they had an estimate of about 310,000 to do that. So just those two places right there were enough to put us, our threshold is $470,000 between us and the city of Hot Springs or any other incorporated areas in Garland County. So I think that, Jimmy, I think we've got a really good chance this time. And if we don't get it, then we'll try again. I'm not going to quit till they won't answer my phone calls.
Just keep on asking. Keep on asking. You got anything else?
Not right now.
Let me put something on the table here. The parking in front of the courthouse over here, the new city paid parking.
Yes.
I don't think that's right. Got people going in there that aren't particularly the people that perpetrated a crime, but they're, having to go in there and sit for 4 hours, 5 hours. I hope the city will consider that, approach the city on exempting that group of parking places right off front of the court. And it's the closest parking for senior citizens to get into are handicapped, to get into the courtroom. So I don't think being a government use facility in public and government, that they should have those paid parking places.
Yeah, maybe we could come up with some way so that somebody didn't abuse it. That if you were in district court, you had some type of receipt,
Voucher.
Voucher or receipt that you could provide to do that.
Have to go to court
And
to use those.
I'll visit with the city about that because I know they've worked with some other areas to provide something for the employees downtown. And so it's probably not a good idea if somebody's coming here to try to pay a ticket or a fine to have that pile up on top of them. And maybe they're started out initially as a parking ticket and they're going to wind up with another one.
Maybe you talk to Director Burrows. I'll talk to my director, Webb, and we'll
We'll
get
see if we
something
can
done.
at least get that section in front of district court to where they can park there.
Quite a burden, a cost if you had to park there.
So we'll have some more areas for them to park here. We'll help a little bit, but there's still a lot of vehicles that come over there. And I mean, they're at 8 o'clock in the morning, our parking lot is frantic with people buzzing around like flies trying to find someplace to park.
Is it acceptable, just so we'll know, to park, to go into the courtroom there in the election commission parking lot?
Yeah, as long as they're not having an election, everybody parks in there.
That's a good spot.
But if there's an election going on, we certainly reserve that for the
Sure.
people wanting to vote.
Sure.
But our neighbors across the street use it from time to time. But yeah, they can park over there too.
All right. Any other questions? Motion to adjourn?
Thank you all. Thank you very much. And I'll try to keep everybody apprised on what's going on.